Hey, welcome everybody to this session. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, whatever it is, wherever you are. I'm Chloe Walton. I'm your host for this session, and I have to say I'm really excited about this session. We are really lucky to have Alpesh Alnikat and Bernardo Amador joining us to discuss the next generation of workplace collaboration and learning. And oh my goodness, is that a subject that's going to be talked about indefinitely given the current year we've had? So, almost without further ado, I'm going to hand over. But one of the things I would still encourage you to do, and you've been brilliant at it all the way through this entire programme of events, is to keep engaged through the chat, ask lots of questions, and we will make sure we give space to them at the end of the session so that we can answer anything that comes up for you. So, without further ado, I hand over to Alpesh and Bernardo. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chloe, and a pleasure to speak to you all, albeit virtually, of course. Delighted to welcome you to our event around shaping the future of workspace learning. Bernardo, if you click on, we'll show you what today's schedule is. We have a brief introduction from us around the subject matter and reviewing some of the trends that we're seeing around workplace learning, which, as Chloe said, is a subject area that has really catapulted itself into the center of the universe, given the events over the course of the last 12 months or so. We'll be exploring the technology and solutions from our valued partner X2O Media and showcasing some of the immersive technologies that are available around workplace learning, and then sharing some practical advice on taking workplace learning to the next level. So very much looking forward to this session. My name's Alpesh, as Chloe said. I'm CEO of a business called Aura. You'll learn more about that through the business. And Bernardo, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Bernardo Amador, and I bring 10 years on EdTech and training. I'm an expert on pedagogical methods and learning, and I've joined X2O back in September to help foster that environment within Europe. So I thank you all for being here. We strongly believe that we have now the opportunity to reinvent ourselves due to the current situation. And what we start finding is that the rule of thumb to look or to wish to bring new solutions into the corporate world is normally very specific, very time specific, and normally aimed at cost reduction. Nonetheless, if we look further than the essential need, it is possible, even say probable, that new solutions could increase the performance of both the environment and the staff, and therefore without compromising, obviously, the quality of the deliverance. For us, there are three main factors that go into that. One being innovation, the other one being scalability, and obviously speed. So in other words, innovation, obviously, evolution, and time. And that has to resonate with the fact that we have dispersed workforces, travel limitations, and so on. So the way to overcome that is really by having immersiveness and engagement, regardless of the physical space that you are in, and that you can still interact in real time. I believe that none other than Shell could explain how you achieve those results. So 90% of their programs are nowadays delivered online through virtual sessions, and they've been able to save well over $200 million. And we'll see a few of those statements coming through, and data that will obviously support why the next generation is starting to emerge.
And you're absolutely right, Bernardo, that there's a lot of data that now supports this whole journey towards the sort of future of digital workplaces. Now, I'll use the word workplaces first, but actually, if you do dig into our business Aura, we're about workspaces. And of course, we've learned, all of us have learned, I think, over the course of certainly recent months, that workplaces are not necessarily the place that work happens. It happens in a workspace, which could be anywhere. Today, we can work at home. We could work in an office environment when they're all opened up. And of course, that whole journey to the change of workspaces and the evolution of them is definitely something that's underpinned by huge amounts of data, as Bernardo was indicating. Today, we find ourselves with 4 generations of people in the workspace, in working environments, and they all have different appetites to how they consume technology and the space in which they operate. So, however, what we found is that technology in the workspace tends to be somewhat fragmented. The experience, these technologies we use for learning, for example, are very different to how we might collaborate, and so on and so forth. And so what we found is that there's much more of an integrated approach needed towards connecting people, whether they're at home or in a workspace environment. So certainly the future of digital workspaces is changing. You have a quote there from Gartner, certainly indicating that, but I'm sure we've all seen some of the evidence of that in the press over the course of the last few months. So Bernardo, if you click on to the next slide,
Yes.
I'll talk to you a little bit about what we're seeing from clients. Now, Aura is a business that's fully immersed in this whole future workspace environment. And pre-pandemic, clients have been for some years thinking about how do we sort of get the best of technology investments? How do we really drive further efficiencies, improvements, not just from a business productivity and cost perspective, but also what's good for their staff, and what we're seeing is the evolution of a hybrid working pattern, one that means that we're going to spend some of our future time in an office, and an office maybe that's rebranded as a collaboration space, but some of that space time will be also spent in a conventional sort of home setting, and clients are now stepping up the pace of that transformation. We're seeing huge evidence of businesses and organizations, both public sector, private sector, looking at how they might evolve their workspace environments using the space, the office space, using technology in a more integrated way now that it's likely to be a more permanent fixture, that the workforce is devolved in its nature and where it sits. So immersive, engaging experiences are definitely on the up in terms of demand. An optimum sort of investments around space and around technology, investments that are secure, investments that are sustainable, are certainly in demand as well. And we see that in that setting from a learning perspective is not just limited to education sector institutions and clients. Actually, corporates, public sector bodies, and so on and so forth, there's certainly a drive around that whole learning and development experience. How do we deliver that when our workforce might be dispersed and spread across huge numbers of locations and potentially at home? How do we create that immersive, engaging solution? So, Bernardo, if you click on this graphic here, is one of several, but this depicts a vision, if you like, of a future office state. Most of you will recognize this as being an office building because it's clearly got floors and desks and people in the environment. But you'll notice a much less concentration of desks in a conventional working sense and more collaboration areas. And of course, that's exactly what we're talking about here. We see this as being the outcome. We see this as being the type of future office space, collaboration space that we're likely to move to, a place where you go not to go and do the same job you could theoretically do at home, but one where you go to either collaborate in person or remotely with your colleagues. And it's that top left graphic on the sort of second floor there that we're probably going to explore in a bit more detail today, the sort of immersive collaboration experiences. And Bernardo, I think you're going to talk about that on your next slide as well.
Indeed. So I find that this image actually depicts exactly what's coming next, which is about the key aspects for a stable and long-term alive workspace. And so I believe that the key aspects into this actually tie in very neatly with how we connect, how we communicate, and how we collaborate in any environment. And all of that needs to happen organically and simultaneously. It's not about having one or the other, and flat solutions would provide you one or the other, which might be good for a short fix. But if you really want to look into the next generation, the future of your building, and hence redesigning, reinventing your spaces, it just makes sense to bring it all together. And I say bring it all together in the sense that it should be seamless. It should be seamless. It should be by the touch of the finger. So as a result, and I say this with quite a lot of pride, because we have a sense of responsibility towards our clients, and we work strongly and together with our regional partners, such as obviously Aura here present today, to deliver the next generation of solutions for the workplace, or workspace, as Alpesh was referring to quite accurately as well. Along with our partners, we mutually drive the delivery of physical, hybrid, and virtual spaces. So if you want a space that today can have a function and tomorrow a different one, or within hours change the concept within the room, that should be feasible without struggle. And that's where Alpesh's company comes in, right? So it's about giving you that vision, that experience, that uniqueness into it. And obviously, hopefully tied in with X2O Media's collaboration, virtual classrooms and hybrid classrooms. So the aim, obviously, is to create a space that is immersive, that is interactive, and that is engaging for all that are involved, not just the participants that are, whether they are dispersed workforces or stakeholders that are abroad. It's about everyone coming in together and feeling the exclusiveness of that space. Surely it goes without saying that through systems like this, and you can see by the quote, active e-learning or e-learning solutions provide you methodology to improve actually knowledge retention by 22.5%, and as a result, an engagement increase by up to 46%, which I personally find that is quite a statement to know that using a space like this, I can not only ensure that the tacit knowledge is passed through to my team accurately, but I also get back from them almost 50% back to any other solution, and I think that that's quite a statement. So I'll pass the word back to Alpesh for a very short message, and then we'll come back.
Sure. So we're about to show you a short video, and this, as you're viewing it, try to imagine the experience of a distributed workforce, a team that is spread across either at home or working remotely, as well as people working back in the office as we start coming out of the world of the pandemic and returning to a sort of normal place of work, if you like. And what we've conventionally used over the course of the last 12 months, of course, is very much your normal platforms for, I'm sure don't need to name all of them, but we're all very familiar with the sort of simple click, and we'll be able to see our colleagues and our friends. This then takes it to a different level of immersion and collaboration. So if we can play a short video, hopefully this will explain itself to you.
We are Aura, reimagining workspace futures today. With a dispersed workforce, finding a way to engage and deliver the same content simultaneously to both on-site and remote participants can be challenging. The X2O Collaboration Room provides an immersive and unique experience, combining the benefits of a live session with the power and flexibility of a cloud-based virtual platform. Featuring high-quality directional audio and visual communication with intelligent multi-camera views, as well as a unique perspective view for each remote participant and simultaneous scalability with up to 120 remote participants interacting in real time. Create an engaging learning environment with an interactive whiteboard that enables all participants to make smart annotations and easily share content. Collaboration tools such as voting polls make sessions more engaging for all participants. The hand raise feature shows when a remote participant wants to ask a question. Also, other visual cues are available to the presenter, including seeing when a participant is distracted, how they answered a poll question, or if they are on mute. Interactive breakout sessions help to facilitate deeper discussions and keep the conversation going in smaller groups. And the moderated chat feature helps to engage with other participants either in-room or virtually. The easy-to-use, intuitive interface allows instructors to focus on teaching and moderators to focus on the meeting rather than technology. The result is a hybrid environment that will be embraced by users as an effective way to provide an immersive and unique meeting experience that meets all business needs. Shape your learning and development strategy of the future today. Contact us to arrange a live interactive demo at www.aurafutures.com.
Great. So thank you, Alpesh. I believe that the video is very self-explanatory. So if you allow me to reiterate, I believe that this is about why we invest in the next level solutions. Aside from the fact that they provide a unique experience for all involved. Obviously, again, referring to the quote, by the way, any of the quotes that you see, they are public quotes. They do not come from us. They don't necessarily come from direct clients of ours either. They are open statements from research done through unbiased parties. And I think that's important to know. So 1/3 of the participants tend to lose interest in presentations that are flat, and if you allow me to say it as such, tame. And the reason they tend to find that it is tame, it's because it's not engaging or it's not immersive enough. They don't feel empowered by the room or by the deliverance. So by having engagement, by having immersiveness, you can count on a 15% increase attention span above the obvious 33% that would also be listening to, at least better than in other cases. So I think that that's quite a bold statement once again. But please know that it doesn't come from us directly. It is an unbiased research that does state it. So what is the next level and why invest in solutions like such? So from one side, you have the remote participants, people that are abroad, people that are possibly within the country or in the far away. But just the fact that you can have the individual audio, the individual video being streamed, it means that if I have a team builder on my far left side, I'll come to him and I'll speak to him and they will see me eye to eye. That personalized engagement. So from a remote participant, having that multiple direction from the teacher to engage with me personally, but also the fact that I have multi-angled videos and audios, which will give me a sense of dimension and detail within the room. And on the other hand, then we have the breakout groups that actually function within open sessions. So you go and are having a session with 60 people and you want everyone to break out in groups of 4, 5, 8 people, and you want them to come up with solutions. You can break them into groups. They will interact and they will be able to use their own individual smart whiteboard, speak to each other in a separate channel, or even engage the teacher and say, or the delivery or the presenter, can you please come and assess how we're going? Can you assist us? And it is a closed channel. Obviously, the teacher or the presenter or the host can speak to the wider audience at any one point, or actually just get into your channel and have an individual conversation, which I believe that gives us, opens us to a discussion just like if it was in a room, right? So it's almost like if you were present physically. And obviously it is a rounded collaboration breakout group for team building exercises. On the other hand, sometimes we forget the experience from the person delivering. So the person that is delivering does need some wow factor. Of course, you have the standards of visual cues, so the raise of hands, the muted button, and so on. But how do I really engage the presenter to feel that it can give a personal delivery message to any single individual at the same time, a commitment from him to the audience, obviously, and at the same time provide immersion into his session through a unique experience. So obviously there is multiple ways to do that, and one of the main ones is how individual each person is in its own screen, with its own audio, with its own camera, aside from all the features that come with the solution. And then we have the live interactive polls that allow you, obviously, to answer the polls accordingly, but for the presenter to have cues on it and know who's going to pair up with him, because I can actually create a breakout group as a result of it, based on same answers, different answers, or just randomized. And I believe that is quite next level, because obviously we're looking at a different world, how to again communicate, connect, and collaborate as if it was a physical room where people stand up and just move to a different table. So whilst it is possible to do all of this, it goes without saying that sometimes you just have that VIP person that is coming in, whether it is a remote presenter, whether it is just a specialist in the field, and having a remote presenter does mean that I can just invite someone to give a specific topic, and we put him center stage for that specific time, and it is done obviously as anyone would expect, in simple ways. So anyone, anytime, anywhere could actually become the remote presenter. And last but not least, the possibility of having content that is actually residual, so they become assets. You're not stream sharing, you're actually content sharing. That means that in layman's terms, you're streaming the content via the platform in itself, which means that you will be doing in high quality and effortless, without delays. And I think that is quite advanced in today's technology, and certainly something that we see more and more being useful for today's needs. And I will pass my word to Alpesh.
Thank you, Bernardo. And before I present some of the ways in which we help navigate clients through to creating their own sort of immersive environments, I will tell you that almost everyone, and I'm saying almost with a view that perhaps it may not be fully true, but I can definitely say 99%. At least, and it probably is 100% of clients that have seen the solution and come to an experience session with us, and now progressing to wanting some of these things deployed in their environments. So seeing it in a video, hearing it explained by your good self and myself on this platform is one thing, and then coming along to a session and feeling that immersion, as you said, the engagement is significantly higher, and the experience is richer for both the presenter and for the recipient, on both sides. And of course, the uniqueness of the solution is the ability to combine both physical and remote participants in a single solution.
You're completely right, Alpesh. And I believe that to tie with that, if you allow me, there was a question asked by Simone, as far as I understand, and I can guess who Simone is. So welcome and thank you for joining. So the question is, from what I understand, they are interested in ways the system does let the host know that someone is distracted. And it is true, Zoom has developed, and they have it now. We've had it for a few years, a few months, to say the least. You have a cue. You have a very discreet, very noticeable for the host who's present, an eye over the person that says, the person is distracted. He might be on his emails. obviously, if it's the CEO, you're not going to call on the CEO. CEO, you're distracted. So it needs to be discreet enough for the host to know, but not for everybody else in the audience to know that someone is distracted. So we have an eye that browses over the person, very faded, but visible enough to say the person is distracted, bring him back in. So because I come from the educational world, one thing that I would do is normally I put the most interactive students on the corners because they will force me to move around the room, but the most distracted ones right in the middle because it cues me to look at them straight in the eye and say, I'm going to use you if you don't mind, Alpesh. Alpesh, please come to the session. And I don't need to really reference that he's distracted because he will know straight away that I know that. So I think that will help tie in the story in that front. So please, Alpesh, sorry for the side point.
Not at all. It's certainly from my experiences, having taken a number of corporate and education sector clients through the immersive experience. It's certainly something that people like to see. How do I get engagement? And of course, it's very, very easy when you're on a flat environment, such as some of the other sort of basic platforms around UC and communication and collaboration. It's very easy to zone out, switch your camera off, and go off and do something else. And really, your organization who's trying to engage you there has really lost you. So this solution does really enable that immersion and connection with that remote participant. And of course, that's the key thing. Now, from our perspective here, if you click onto the first one, it clearly the first thing is understanding the use case. So, and the use case can be very different depending on who you are. Straightforward use cases, when you have universities, higher education bodies, it's pretty straightforward to understand how they may want to utilize this sort of solution. To give you an example, however, we've been working with an international recruitment business. And for them, the use case is around interviewing of candidates, collaboration between their offices, candidate onboarding, learning and development, etc., etc., etc. And it's going to be different depending on who you are. So the first step that we do, working with our partners in X2O, that Aura will do, is help define the use case for our clients with a view to sort of understanding how the solution could work, and then working together with you to design what sort of experience you're looking for, whether that's how the rooms should be set up, whether you're going to be doing practical training, which means overhead cameras. I know one of the solutions we have out there is for a DJ environment teaching music, and so you have overhead cameras over the decks to sort of ensure that the remote presenter can show physically how things are happening with that immersiveness around the screen. So designing that experience for the client and working with you to understand exactly how it could work in your environment is key. And that follows on, of course, to then saying, well, okay, what's the potential budget? But importantly, what's the return on investment? And as you can probably gather, the return on investment on these sorts of technologies is quite significant because the alternative to immersive, engaging experiences such as this is typically the next best thing is really travel and in-person attendance. And so there's a pretty strong ROI, but not just around the travel. There's lots of other areas. So we'll work with you to identify the best physical environment and effectively bring it to life. And the last one that will come on the screen now is then visualizing that from a three-dimensional perspective. So how could it look in your environment? What's the costs? What's the benefits? And so each of our clients can see. So as you can see, it's a very consultative process. It goes from defining the business case all the way through to visualizing it for individual client requirements. But the surge in demand from corporate environments has been extremely noticeable, particularly over the last few months, as there's certainty now as to what the future landscape of working is likely to look. So if you click on Bernardo.
So yes, sorry, I lost you for a second. I'm very sorry. I don't know why. It just buffered for a bit. So I think that you've answered it perfectly well, Alpesh. It is very much about providing the unique experience. It's not an off-the-shelf product. You don't work as an off-the-shelf company either, and we're not, as some people would say, and if I can use the expression, moving boxes. So I praise that, because we're trying to understand the client's needs and really going beyond expectations. A very interesting point on the return over investment is that we've noticed, and there is statements, you can Google it certainly, if you so wish, that some companies have been able to prove that employees that are taking L&D seriously, or well, companies that are taking L&D seriously and bringing it remotely online, they tend to see a far bigger return for their investment. So we have cases of increased performance by 218%, which is quite bold statement again. And we saw recently a company make the claim that for every pound that they spent, they were getting 30 pounds return from the employee, just based on learning and development. So again, it is about seeing that next level, bringing your staff in, ensuring that you get to retain them. The longer you retain, obviously, your costs dilutes through time. So all of that should be play into it. And I think it tells a beautiful story. Personally, I do think that. So, but I might be biased. I might, because I come from the education world, maybe because obviously I work for X2O Media, but I do find that it does bring a very big added value. So very quickly, just wrapping up with a few examples, and then we'll come to the next generation and what we see for the future. We're speaking here about two giants of FMCG. In the left, you have Breakout Groups for collaboration, team building exercises, and it is an interchangeable workspace from hybrid to virtual, so that they dynamize the room. And then on the right, you have a training room. But both rooms, or any room actually, could deliver onboarding for new recruits through HR. It could also be an interactive platform for dispersed workflows. Sorry, I'm dyslexic. Workforces. There you go. Workforces, regardless of their location, whether it is in the UK or abroad. And then I'm just taking this example, which is a business school. So business schools are now looking also at that next level. They want to compete, they want to be fair, and they want to really bring their game up. And as such, you can see executive programs starting to emerge in North America, in Europe, and throughout the world for executive programs and EMBAs mostly. And one of the interesting points in this scenario is visiting professors. So visiting professors are very much like a representative or a key person in a particular subject, and they tend to be invited to access remotely. Obviously, confinement doesn't allow you to travel, so they would access remotely, take center stage in a big screen, and give specific content to the audience, whether they are present physically or remotely. And so give their content or input or even workshops to really dynamize the sessions. So, and last but not least, this room for me speaks thousands. We say that an image says more than 1,000 words, and I believe that it says exactly that. So with dynamic seating readily coming up, you could have this room. This is a natural room. It works. It's live. And has 120 active seats, but it could span from 40 seats with 2 heads per screen all the way to 120. And each individual screen has a speaker or if every segment has a speaker, which means the left person speaks, the teacher is directed to that person. If it's the person on the right side of the screen, is directed to that person. And in this room, you have about 20 screens, so you can imagine the magnitude of this room. And how unique the experience is in this place. And interesting point on this room is that we're starting to see recent conversations with other stakeholders, with other companies that are very much interested in solutions like this. In some cases, even larger rooms. So it is always interesting to know that 120 plus people can attend actively, as well as we can always look into remote observers to add on to the solution. So in recent engagements, what we've seen is quite peculiar, and certainly some of you will resonate with this. So audiences for large surface meetings, whether it is board of directors or certainly stakeholders, investors, but also TED Talks. TED Talks is possibly the other level where you would need a session like this, a space like this. And why not? A recent conversation has led to someone needing a room very similar to this, even bigger. I won't mention the number of people, obviously, but significantly bigger. And what they want to achieve is, among other things, be able to provide training for young talent management training programs. So they're looking at their next level of directors, and they want to form them, to train them together. And you can only do that if you are actually giving back what you expect out of them. So uniqueness, individuality, and assertiveness. And I believe that will transpire from a room like this. I don't know if you share my opinion, Alpesh, and I will obviously pass to the next slide, but if you can give your opinion, if that's the same that you're seeing.
Absolutely, what you've described there, Bernardo, is exactly what we're seeing with clients. It's that demand for and looking out at lots of different types of solutions. So much so that, of course, we built our own room in our London office here. This is in Liverpool Street, and used for clients. Clients book themselves into this room with a view to sort of having, as you say, CEO briefings, board meetings, etc., etc. So certainly echo the comments you've just made around the varying use cases that we're now beginning to see, or for the immersive collaboration solutions. So yeah, if you flick onto the next slide, Bernardo, I think this will draw us to a close shortly, conscious on time. So the next generation, what's coming next? So I think from our perspective in Aura, clearly we think that the journey around workplaces has now moved to a subject about workspaces, and that space, hopefully demonstrated through the course of today, can be anywhere, really. Can be in your place of work, but it can be at home. And of course, our job as employers or education institutions, etc., is to provide that seamless, connected, immersive experience to everyone, whichever workspace they're sat in. And I think that whole dispersed workforce is likely to be much more of a norm going forward, especially as we start stepping ourselves into, I don't even want to use the phrase new normal. I've heard it too many times, but whatever normality is likely to be going forward. I think we're on very much the same page on that as well, aren't we, Bernardo?
Oh, completely. And I think that when you say the new normal, I find it funny, because what is the new normal, isn't it? It seems that the new normal is always new the next day. So moving to the next generation of digital workspace, and I appropriate myself of your word, by the way, Alpesh, by saying work space, not workplace. We see that there is a tendency to use data analytics, using more insightful information to understand better and deeper our community. And when I say community, I say, again, everyone that is involved. So what we will see for our solution directly, among other things, is we will open for questions very shortly, I promise. It is the possibility to really measure talent and performance, and even develop talent. So if the performer, the presenter, the host is speaking, is he actually engaging with the audience? Is the audience actually taking in all that is being taught to him, is it being assimilated correctly? If not, we can actually learn if a different method or a different pedagogy would actually adapt better. And what you're generating there is not pinpointing faults, but rather creating talent based on what corresponds best to the audience I'm speaking. So it might be that my way of delivering a conversation might not be the best, and so we would bring in someone that would have a different delivery method that could be more relatable to the audience in question. So I think that is a very interesting point on the data front. Then we go into hard skills training, far more manual, far more tactical, and you speak about simulation. And when you speak about simulation, you can obviously today, I believe it will become a norm very shortly. If we were speaking about norms, it's virtual reality. How do you bring virtual reality into a classroom environment, whether it is the presenter doing virtual reality and showcasing an example? I think that's the future. That future we're resonating very close at home at X2O, so we're seeing it. But potentially the remote participants doing that, accessing via virtual reality to showcase what they do. And finally, but last but not least, definitely ML and AI will likely become a standard, not necessarily with us, but it is becoming a standard in the in this world, and it will be considered as part of integrations. Alpesh?
Thank you, Bernardo. Well, look, there's a fair bit we've shared there in a relatively short space of time. So, in wrap up from here, of course, would invite anyone who'd like to come and see a demonstration. We call it an experience because it actually is very much an experience. So, if you'd like to have an experience session, do come and speak to us at Aura. We have, as I say, a number of facilities around in different locations, but London is where you can come and physically see it, but we have the immersive session that, of course, you can tap into online. So do come and speak to us and have a look at that. Shall we hand to Chloe?
Please, Chloe, take it away.
That's brilliant. Honestly, that has been slightly mind-blowing and utterly fantastic. So thank you so much. There are a couple of questions, some of which are coming from me, but I appreciate time. So what I first want to do is thank you guys for all of that, and just reiterate what you said, that you'd be happy for people to reach out, contact you for demonstrations with questions, whatever the audience want. This has been recorded and people can look at it anyway. I just had an interesting, thinking of the audience, can the training providers have this technology, or does it have to be embedded within the organisation that the training occurs in?
Well, it is a physical room. We have other solutions that could answer to those needs, but it is a physical room. Now, as a physical room goes, a remote presenter can be anywhere. So I can launch the room. It's easy to do it. And the presenter from China will start and take it away. So we have a particular project where they want to use a substantial amount of hours. They want to use up to 16 hours a day. Now, I don't know anyone that works 16 hours a day except for me and a few in my team, but a few of my colleagues not in my team. But it's not a cup of tea for everybody. So you need to be able to count on people that are remote.
Yeah, it's absolutely brilliant. So, go on, Alpesh.
I was only going to say, Chloe, that some of the training providers and other sorts of businesses who'd like to be able to tap into a solution like this, we're seeing some demand for people using our facilities to host their sessions. So those options are available as well. Best thing to do is come and have a session yourself, experience it firsthand, and go from there, really.
That's been absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much for your time. Like I say, if there are any questions that come up, we'll get them through to you for you to respond to, but really appreciated. I hope that everyone has a great rest of their day, however long that is, 15 hours or otherwise. And it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you.
Thank you. You too, Chloe.
Thank you.
See you next time. Thank you, Alpesh.
Thanks, man.